Okay, I think we're ready.
Okay, sort of ready. I definitely want to try to say something about more than one topic today, partially because the first topic is very short. But on the other hand, I probably won't get to all the topics that I really want to talk to, partially because, well, I guess one of them isn't really quite ready yet, because I don't have the program finished. But so the thing I wanted to start with here was kind of this is hopefully just a relatively short digression. Although it could turn out being important at some point. It could be relevant to other stuff that we're doing. But for now, it's a little bit of a digression, and it arose out of stuff that we were talking about, I think, near the end of last time. And I don't know how serious it sounded. Like we were, disagreeing, but I don't know how seriously you were disagreeing with me. You might have been joking. The question that arose that we seemed to have somewhat opposite opinions on was so there's this concept of a, I'm not sure what official terminology is, so I'm kind of just making up some unofficial terminology as we're going along, but maybe you can tell me what more official terminology is. But there's this concept of an object in a, I guess it could be in a total 2-rig or in an absolute 2-rig. But well, first of all, we have the concept of an object of dimension n.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have this concept of maybe subdimension n.
Yep, I'm familiar with that.
Right. And I was suggesting that typically when you have an object of subdimension n, and it's not sharply dimension n, that so in certain situations it's like a bundle of objects, and each fiber of the bundle is sort of dimension n or less, or something like that. That's the rough idea. And, I was suggesting that the sort of typical situation you expect to run into when it's not sharply dimension n, all the fibers the same dimension, I was suggesting that you would get some anomalously high dimensional fibers, and the generic ones would tend to be as low as possible, basically 0 dimensional. But you could also have slightly less generic ones that are intermediate dimensions.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You said that sounds crazy or something like that. So I'm not sure how serious you were. But have you thought about it at all, or
Can I say a bit about it?
Sure.
So I thought about it. So I mean, it sounded crazy because if you have like a function that's not 0 everywhere, then it'll be non-zero, generically non-zero, and then 0 on some lower dimensional sub manifold or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, but then you mentioned something about co-equalizers and your general fondness for doctrines where colimits play a special role. And so then I realized that like what I had been thinking about is something that happens where you take an equalizer, or you could say like a sub thing of a vector bundle, like the image of a morphism from some other vector bundle, and then that would generically be a situation. Could be like it's generically the fibers are the maximum dimension, the image, and then occasionally, because some functions vanish that you're using to describe this morphism of bundles, occasionally there will be fibers of the image which are lower than the maximum dimension. I'm sort of freezing. You're freezing up, or else I'm freezing up. I don't know if you.
I don't know what might be the technical problem, but you can hear me?
Yeah, the important question is whether you could hear me.
Oh, I think I can hear you. I think I can hear
a bunch of stuff, yeah. So anyway, so I was thinking about, for some reason or other, I've been thinking about images of vector bundles under maps between vector bundles. But those, I realize now, you can, what is the deal? Well, I was realizing that I think if you're like focused on equalizers, it'll give you a different answer than if you're focused on co-equalizers.
Yeah, okay, there are some tricky questions here, I guess. But I have the feeling that most of it could depend on what you're trying to do, but I think the situations you run into in quote real life tend to be the situations where you are dealing with co-equalizers. So so people do talk about the image of a morphism of vector bundles.
Yep.
But I have a feeling that that's Can we do an example here? So if I give you an example like of a vector bundle over the affine line or something like that. And let's say let's take the trivial line bundle. Let's take a morphism between an automorphism of it. No, an endomorphism of it.
Right.
And try to figure out if we unambiguously know what it means to take the equalizer of that. I guess equalizer, does that mean a kernel or something like that? Let's see. Right, might as well take a kernel. Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway. Yeah, so like look at the map multiplication by x, where x is the coordinate on the affine line. So
okay,
you're right that the kernel of that is generically zero-dimensional, and then at the point where x equals 0, the kernel jumps up to dimension 1. So that sounds like you're winning.
Oh, but you said something about image or something. Let's see.
Right. That's
okay.
Right. Yeah. So I was really talking about images, but I was suspecting that the difference was between equalizers and co-equalizers, but I guess maybe that's not how it's working out. So,
but let's try. I'm still suspecting that it's.
Okay. Well, let me. I was saying, yeah. So the kernel is generically zero-dimensional and pops up to dimension 1 at a single point.
See, I'm not even sure what image is going to mean, and I think that it might end up that image ends up meaning something peculiar in this circumstance.
Oh, okay.
But let's find out. Let's try to find out.
I just meant the fiber-wise image. I mean, you can. That's what old. Maybe that's like a bad concept, but so the fiber-wise image would be generically one-dimensional, and then it would pop down to zero-dimensional at the origin.
Okay, but wait. So you're dealing with like vector bundles over the
affine line, trivial one-dimensional vector bundles over the affine line, just like you.
But in what category are you going to take an equalizer? Right, because the vector bundles don't have an.
Right. So, okay, well, I was just being lowbrow and taking fiber-wise equalizers and co-equalizers, but I guess coherent sheaves were designed for this purpose.
Right. That's one of the things. I'm thinking if you take coherent sheaves and if you take the image between the coherent sheaves, so does image, right? What does image mean in the context of coherent sheaves? I think I'm imagining that what's going to happen when you, yeah, I could be completely wrong, but when you take the image of this map that you mentioned, what, multiplication by 1 or something like that? No, multiplication by the variable, multiplication by the coordinate variable.
Yep.
That is, when you construe that as a morphism of coherent sheaves, and then you take the image of that morphism in some straightforward sense, hopefully straightforward sense, that it's going to end up geometrically being sort of like, what am I trying to say? That it's going to somehow automatically heal over the missing fibers that you're expecting, or missing or co-missing fibers or something that you're expecting. That you know, it's going to be like a closure of an image or something. You know, there's some naive set theoretic image you could try to deal with, but that doesn't really give a coherent sheaf in any way that I know of.
Okay. Well, I don't understand coherent sheaves well enough to calculate in my head what we're going to get. So at least not pretty fast. So,
well, okay, but okay. Like I said, we shouldn't talk about this too much, but let's pursue it a little bit here. So in this case, the coherent sheaves are basically just modules of the polynomial.
okay.
Well, I guess that's the quasi-coherent sheaves.
Right.
Are you okay with using the quasi-coherent sheaves instead?
Sure, yeah, that's even better.
Okay. Okay. And so those are just, you know, basically vector spaces with operator.
Yep.
And so what is the what am I trying to say? For the trivial, right? So what is the trivial line bundle as a vector space with operator? I guess it's the ring. I guess it's the polynomial ring. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, it should be the polynomial ring itself with multiplication by a variable. I'm going to call it x as the operator.
Yeah. Okay. And now try to take, well, let's see. Okay, but then we have a morphism of that, an endomorphism of that module.
Yeah, which amusingly is that operator in this,
right?
Because we decided to confuse ourselves.
That's right. I think that's right, because we decided to confuse ourselves. And now, so one interpretation of what you're talking about here is that we should try to take the image of this module homomorphism. So this is a module homomorphism, if we haven't screwed up in some horrible way. And what's the image of this module homomorphism? I mean, you could also, you know, arguably maybe we should instead take the co-image. I mean, there's all sorts of funny duality games. We already know there's all sorts of funny duality games going on here. But first of all, let's just try to take the image of this module homomorphism and see what we get.
So unless image is sneakier than I think it is, it should just be the polynomials, the module of polynomials. Well, the ideal generated by x.
The ideal generated by x, right? Okay, that sounds right. I think that sounds right. So that doesn't include the constant, but it does include, yeah. Okay. And that is, so yeah, so doesn't it seem like some sort of swindle or something like that? I mean, you took the image here and you ended up with this ideal. And this ideal is a trivial module. So you just got back the trivial line bundle.
Okay. Yes.
So there's something funny going on here. And I think part of it is that, this algebraic process of taking the image in this module category, if you try to interpret it as an operation on, something like vector bundles or something like that, that it's, or I don't know, that it somehow automatically heals over these missing things or something like that. It's like a closure of an image or something. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm saying it right, but something has to give there, right? Something funny is going on compared to your.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, I don't know. The naive thing to note is that
the
image is isomorphic to the whole polynomial algebra, but it's a different sub-object. It's different than the identity sub-object. So I mean, the same object can be a sub-object of itself in multiple ways. So
right, but just as an object, it's got the same fibers basically. I mean, the same isomorphic fibers or something.
Right.
It doesn't have an anomalously small fiber.
Right. Well, no, not viewed abstractly in its own right. Yep.
So. Right. So you see what I'm saying? So in that fiber that you were expecting to be anomalous, fiber, and it's not an anomalous fiber, but it does have sort of anomalous. It has points in it that don't get hit in some sense, right? I mean, does that even make sense? Again, it's getting hit versus getting co-hit. There's the funny duality games going on here. But anyway. Right. We could pursue this a lot more and try to figure out really what's going on. But I think it's good enough if we just quit here with a kind of warning that something funny is going on here, right? Some various funny things are going on here.
Yep. Yeah, that's fine. I'm very happy to stop here.
But in particular, this is supposed to be propaganda for the claim that I was making, that you should expect these objects of subdimension n to have anomalously large fibers, but you shouldn't expect them to have anomalously small fibers. I mean, but it does depend on your duality conventions. Maybe some way to squint at this upside down so that it's the other way around. But
show me one that does. So this is an example that didn't have any anomalous anything, it turned out.
Yes.
So there should be like a slight twist of this example.
Sure, but didn't we already give an example? Like, what am I trying to say? So the thing is, take a co-kernel.
Right.
Take the co-kernel of that map instead. And try calculating that. Right. So these quasi-coherent sheaves are really the same things as these modules, but these modules are really the same things as vector spaces with operators.
Yeah.
And when you take the co-kernel of this, then you're ending up with a vector, an operator on a one-dimensional vector space. So there is, you just got one non-trivial eigenspace, and that's this spiky fiber. That's this skyscraper fiber.
So you're getting the polynomial ring mod the ideal generated by X. That's the
yeah.
You think of it as dual numbers if you felt like it. But we're thinking of it, or you could think of it as a one-dimensional vector.
No, that's not quite right. It would be if it were X squared, then it would.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. That's right. These are like the primal numbers. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Right. So you were describing a thing that has not just a single spiky fiber, but a sort of little, its floor space would be like a tangent vector or something. But this one just has a single point that its
right.
That its floor space is, and and this got, giant spike skyscraper right at that one point.
Right.
And
so that,
yeah, I think this is what people call a skyscraper. If you squint at this right, I think this is what people call a skyscraper sheaf. But don't trust me on that because the terminology works in funny ways. But go ahead, yeah.
So is the idea that you can, these things you're calling fibers, are they stalks of sheaves, or is that what they really are?
Again, there's all sorts of duality.
People don't really want to talk about a fiber of a sheaf in general, right? At least in
yeah, right. There's duality confusions going on here. I mean, the classic way that you get a so-called skyscraper sheaf is that you take like a vector bundle. Right. Right. You are trying, right. There is some funny dual picture here, where the sheaves. Boy, this is confusing. Maybe you're trying to win after all here. Let's see. So what are you saying? You're saying that no, but I still think I think it still works out. So that right, there's this thing that you can do when people talk about a skyscraper sheaf, they're really talking about sheaves, but I think they're talking about taking like for example a vector bundle, but then taking a quotient sheaf of that where all the fibers are hammered down except one fiber isn't hammered down.
That sounds okay to me. Yeah.
But is that like dual to the thing I was talking about? Or is that the same as what I'm talking about?
Well, that's like this co-kernel thing that we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just worried about duality confusion between the stalk and the fiber or something like that here. Let's see.
I mean, anyway, doesn't the skyscraper sheaf have stalk 0 at every point except one point where the stalk is, well, you've made your stalk be like some arbitrary vector space.
Yeah, I think that's right. But is that right? What am I trying to say?
We can stop.
Yeah. Right. I still think I've sort of made my point that
well, I don't.
We didn't clear everything up. We didn't clear everything up, but there is, we established that there are things you have to be really careful about here, and that there is some sort of phenomenon where you get these things where all fibers, or maybe all stalks, or most fibers, the typical stalks or typical fibers are small, but there are these anomalously spiky big skyscrapers ones or something like that.
Yep.
Okay.
That makes me happy. Do people, sorry, this is very alluringly distraction, but are there any people ever talk about like anti-skyscraper sheaves where like the stalks are big except one stalk has been squashed down? I don't know what the,
I mean, you can, let's see, so you can do, let's see,
or are those just like impossible or something?
Yeah, there's no obvious to me, offhand, there's no obvious construction that goes like that. I mean, what you can do is you can take you can mod out by, is it called an open equivalence relation or something like that? Because it is open. Equivalence relation is like a set of pairs, but you know about an open equivalence relation, an open set of pairs. And an open, you can mod out by an open equivalence relation to get a quotient sheaf, but you can't really mod out by am I saying that right? You can't really mod out by a closed one.
I don't know.
Again, there are lots of interesting technical questions here. And I don't have all the answers and concepts at my fingertip at the moment. But
okay, let's move on then.
Okay.
This later. It's good.
Okay. Okay. So right. Okay. So right. One of the things I really did want to tell you about is I've been making a lot of progress in understanding the Artin reciprocity theorem from this very Tanakian viewpoint, but that sort of really does depend on these mathematical programs that I've been writing, and I just didn't quite have enough time to finish them, so I'm not going to really try to do that right now. So instead, we're going to try to continue what we were talking about last time, and what we were talking about last time was well, the way I phrased it was, I'm trying to understand what you other guys are talking about when you're talking about some kind of Frobenius algebras or separable algebras or something like that as acting as the sort of manifestation of the concept of set or finite set working over a commutative ring or a commutative field or something like that. And I'm trying to understand what you guys are talking about that. I guess like, when you mention this fundamental theorem of Grothendieck-Galois theory or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to understand that, and so I'm suddenly proclaiming, maybe somewhat overconfidently, that that's just an obfuscated way of talking about of this more what I think of as more Tanakian way, in a certain sense, in my sense, a Tanakian way of talking about a finite set, and to make things technically easier, I'm going to fix some finite cardinality in. So I want to talk about a set of size n over a commutative ring. I want to have a concept of that, and I have a concept of that, and it's simply an n-bang torsor. An n-bang torsor. Sorry. Over well, to begin with, let's say over the spectrum of a commutative ring, so over an affine scheme, commutative ring A, and I just have what I think of as in some sense, Tanakian definition of such a concept, that I say that there's the n-bang representations. I guess in the background here we have this base field K0, which is the rationals for the moment, and that base field is implicit when I'm talking about the category of n-bang representations. Maybe I should put a little subscript or something saying that these are representations of n-bang over this base field of K0, which is the rationals at the moment, or something like that. And then I just have an interpretation of theories from that syntactic category to the A modules. And so that's my definition of what a set of size n is over A. And we want to try comparing this to the other definition that you've been telling me about.
Mhm.
So, we're going to experiment with this. So let's try this, because I mean, you've already told me, you've given me some idea. We may have to consult again definitions we've written down and things, but we have some concept of separable or étale algebra or something like that, and I think the definition we looked at said something like it's a Frobenius algebra, or et cetera, something. So we're gonna try to do this. We're gonna try to do this.
Okay.
And so let's fix n. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think we should fix n to be? Should we fix n to be n, which isn't really fixing it? Or should we fix, I'm sort of tempted to fix it to be sort of 2 and 3 at the same time or something like that, or not at the same time, but alternatingly. I mean,
I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about this, and at first it seemed very bizarre to me for certain reasons, but then when I started thinking about the case n equals 2, I started believing it more. And the reason why I like the case n equals 2 was which is a dangerous case. But
right, I was going to start with n equals 3 and then fall back on n equals 2 as soon as I get in trouble. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was starting with n equals 2 because I was interested in seeing how the complex numbers can be thought of as a 2-bang torsor over spec of the real numbers, which at first I thought that doesn't sound right, because it's not like you have two.
I don't really, I said yes, but I don't actually have any intuition about that case yet. So I'm interested to hear this. So go ahead.
I mean, so my intuition was something like, I should think of the spectrum of A as some kind of space, and I think of an n-bang torsor over it as being described by an n-sheeted cover over that space.
Yes.
And so then I could easily see how, like, if our ring A was the real numbers, then I could see that, like, R direct sum R, I'm calling it, it's the product of R and R. R direct sum R would be a nice 2-bang torsor over, would give you a nice 2-bang torsor over that.
Nice trivial one, yes.
Yeah, 2 points sitting over a point. Okay.
Yes.
And then for at first it was seeming weird that the complex numbers could also give you a 2-bang torsor over spec R. But then as soon as I thought about the other stuff we've been talking about, which I guess, like, the reason 2 is special is that we've maybe been thinking a lot about abelian groups, and that's the only abelian n-bang. So that's why I resorted to this one. And so then I thought, oh yeah, okay, so that, let's see, there should be some way to think of the complex numbers as giving you a non-trivial 2-bang torsor over spec R.
Right.
And I think I sort of understand it, but I would be very happy to, like, go through it at some point.
Yeah, I certainly do want to look at very concrete examples here.
But I don't mind n equals 3 either.
Let's try n equals 3 to start with, and then very well we might fall back on n equals 3 or something like that. I have a feeling that we might even, do even, we might do R squared or C squared or something like that. Might be an interesting example. Just for purposes of,
Sure.
Learning how to convert the Frobenius algebra structure into a torsor structure and vice versa. So yeah, so let's try this. So like also, I think last time you mentioned that, so that you had thought about, I think you said something like this, some obvious degenerate case where you just consider Frobenius algebras over the complex numbers.
Yeah, okay.
And those should be very easy. How did you describe those? You did describe them, but what did you say? That as algebras they are?
So I want commutative special Frobenius algebras.
I guess they're just finite. I just just these finite Cartesian products of copies of the complex numbers. I guess that's what you probably said.
Yeah, those are the commutative special Frobenius algebras.
Right. I've been forgetting to say special. Right. That's right. Okay. Okay. Right. We have to worry about learning all these.
Yeah.
Relevant concepts. Okay. So I think my plan is to sort of start with the torsor and try to turn it into a Frobenius algebra, rather than the other way around. Partially because, right, in the torsor case, we have this fixed n, whereas in the Frobenius algebra, we don't really have the fixed n. So, it seems to make more sense to go this direction.
Okay, sounds good.
So we've got so yeah, right. So we've fixed n as 3, and in some sense, right? So in some sense, it seems like maybe what we should be doing here is, this seems to be telling us that we should just look at 3 as a the 3-element set, or 3 as I call it. We should be looking at it as a special Frobenius object. In what category? Right. Let me think of this for a second. So let's see. So we've got, let's see, algebras. So that's sounding like, yeah, okay. So it's sounding like set okay, okay, let me try this. So we've got let's say set up I guess with with sorry, with Cartesian product as a as a tensor product. So I mean, this is a symmetric monoidal category, and we talk about Frobenius objects or Frobenius monoids or Frobenius special Frobenius monoids or whatever. We can talk about that in this symmetric monoidal category, right? Doesn't that sort of parse? And
so this, just to be super clear, this times is the times in set.
That's right. I was going to say that. That's right. That's not somehow flipping. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
as
Right,
opposed to in
set
set
down
up. It's
times.
right. It's
You
not
could
the
stick-
Cartesian product in set up.
You could stick the op outside the parentheses if you wanted to be clear, if you felt like it.
I guess I could do that.
It's the opposite of a monoidal category. It's a monoidal category. I'm not.
The zero opposite or the one opposite or whatever you call it.
Yeah, right. It's true.
Okay. Okay. So what am I trying to say? That because this,
Now I think
yeah,
objects in there, they are all sorry, objects in there, objects in set times are all comonoids. They're all co-commutative comonoids. So objects in here,
and not just in an exist sense, but there isn't even any choice. There's just one way in which they are comonoid.
right.
And,
So objects in here will be commutative monoids.
and they have no choice about how to be one.
Right.
They just
Yeah.
are.
You might have slipped and said something about them being Frobenius monoids, but I don't think that's true in there. I think that gets to be true at some later stage in this tale.
Well, I mean, we can find out.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't so much a slip; it was a guess. But yeah, a guess could be wrong or right or something like that. So, I mean, let's check here. So, right. So these have no choice about how to be commutative monoids, but then we can ask as a question whether those commutative monoids are Frobenius or special Frobenius or anything like that. And you don't think that's going to happen here?
I don't think there's a multiplication. I don't think there's like a natural multiplication.
Okay. Okay, you might be right. Okay, that's interesting if true. So okay, so I guess right, maybe I was getting confused. Maybe I was thinking that you were going to look at Frobenius monoids in the category of algebras of a commutative ring, but no, you're looking at Frobenius monoids in the category of modules of a commutative ring. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So that's fine. Okay. Then look, in that case, let's not use this category. Let's see. So what should we try instead? Let's see. So what am I trying to say here? N-bang ramps, A modules. All right, let's experiment with A being K0. So A is the rationals. Okay.
Okay.
And so we've got the rationals to the power of n. Let's see. Let me think about this. let me think about this. The rationals to the power of n say here. All right, so let's try to make this into a special Frobenius algebra. Okay.
Yep.
So what does that mean? And can you Is it at all useful for you to grab the screen sharing here and show me that thing about the correlations or the?
I can try it. My computer seems to be teetering on the
Yeah.
being
By the way,
slow.
do you have an explanation for that?
No, it's funny because I mean, well, it always has been like that, but then like the last few meetings with other people, I thought Zoom had somehow like improved their software so that it wasn't happening, but now
Okay.
now it's, let's see, how am I supposed to grab this thing? If I click that little.
Yeah, well, yeah, I could stop it, but you could just grab it.
Yeah, okay, I'll try to grab it. So, okay, so what's the deal? So, so one thing we have is that the finite set N is a what? Hey, what's going on?
What's the matter?
Are the things that I'm writing disappearing?
I'm not seeing anything. Again, my screen sharing didn't stop. Okay, now I stopped my screen sharing. And now what? You're trying to show things on the screen?
Oh, I thought I could write on that same
Oh,
thing. And it gave me a little green pencil to click on that made me able to write. But the weird thing is I could write, but then the stuff I wrote would disappear shortly after I wrote it.
oh, well, we have sometimes used the Zoom interactive whiteboards. But we weren't using that right at the moment. Do you want to try to use that at the moment?
Okay, yeah, I guess, let's see that I can.
Now I'm trying to remember, does it work better if I turn on the whiteboard or if you turn on the whiteboard? I remember this affected which was, whether it was easier for me to save it or not, or something like that.
Yeah, I think he who turns it on gets to save it.
All right, you can turn it on then. You want to try that?
Yeah, I'll try it. So, okay, so here I am.
Okay, now let me see if I can. Let me see if I can remember how to move this so I can see it. Exit full screen. Okay, and now I move it down to my tablet. Well, how do I move it to my tablet? Okay, so it's there, and then I. Okay, and can I write here? How do I write?
I don't know. I'm confused right now. I'm confused.
Right.
I'm confused about
we could pause to straighten out the technical things if you want. Because I'm just trying to figure out how to write here.
Let me pause it here. Let's see.
Like I'm just trying to look for my
I'm gonna pause it now. Okay, we're back. So Jim just said that a torsor,
which I'm calling T.
Torsor T can be thought of as a map of total 2 rigs from n bang rep category of representations of the symmetric group on n letters over the rationals to category
over the rationals, right?
This is like A is some. A could be any commutative algebra over the rationals, I guess.
Yeah. So this gives us a concept of a set of size n over the ring A in some sense, and we want to see if this amounts to one of these nice special Frobenius algebras or something like that. So let's just mention that. What is it? I guess it's called the tautological representation. So we have, that's not really a good name for it. What is it? It's this n-dimensional representation.
Yep, it is called you do call it the tautological representation of n bang, I think.
Really? Okay. Tautological.
Well, it's a little funny, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's the tautological action on the n element set, but then it gets this representation on the n-dimensional vector space.
Right, and right. So this goes to this thing, I don't know, I'll just call it V for the moment or something. And V is going to become, we suspect that V is going to become a special Frobenius algebra over A or something like that. And we're trying to understand how to do that. And right, and I'm somewhat fixing N to be equal to 3.
Mm-hmm.
And right. And
So should I, let's see.
so I guess, yeah, well,
can I say you were going to assign me a task? You had assigned me a task.
I've probably totally forgotten what that task was. Okay, go ahead and tell me what that task was.
So I was supposed to actually make V into a special commutative Frobenius algebra. I think that was my task.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure that was the task, but that sounds like a good task. Go ahead. Yeah.
So
Well, actually, one of my tasks was to, remind us what a Frobenius algebra is, or something like that, or special Frobenius algebra in terms of props. What the operation spaces in the props are, or something like that.
do we have to do that? Okay.
Not necessarily. So at the moment, it sounds like you want to think of a Frobenius algebra as an actual honest to God algebra.
Yeah, and an actual honest to God co-algebra.
It's actually
well.
both of them. Yes. Okay. Okay, I probably should have remembered that. Okay.
And so let me just say some stuff, and you won't like it, and then you'll say it the way that you like it.
Okay.
So here's my tautological representation. I'm going to be very concrete. I'm just going to call it like Q cubed. Right.
Can I just say one thing about before you proceed? I really want to interrupt and say something.
Okay, I didn't get anywhere. Okay, yeah. Okay.
The thing I want to interrupt and say was that, when you think of this as a torsor, the key thing is that V has these two, operators on it. One for the first generator of 3 bang and one for the second generator, right? 3 bang has famously 2 generators.
Okay.
So this is like, do we have a name for, what is that called?
Oh, you don't want to hear that either, but they're called sigma 1 and sigma 2.
I'll call them S1 and S2 for the moment.
That's fine.
Okay, so to me, that is what this, and then there are all sorts of constraints on this, but to me, this is what the torsor looks like. And so now I am requesting you to cook up this special Frobenius algebra just from this, somehow using, you must somehow use S1 and S2, I think.
Oh,
no. Okay, did I just screw up? Let me think. Can I think about it for a moment? I think I said it wrong. I think I said it wrong. That right, we had this discussion last time, right? I mean, there's the tautological representation, which is n-dimensional, but there's this other regular representation, which is n-bang dimensional.
Right.
And when I wrote down the S1 and S2 acting, I was thinking of the regular representation, but
well, they would be there on the tautological representation as well.
So okay, so it still is there.
But
okay, so right, okay, so I guess what you're telling me is that a torsor is simply a special action of some kind. Is that right? Maybe I should. Yeah.
You're telling me so much about what I'm supposed to do that I'm not.
Right. Well, now I'm tempted to untell you that. So I'm looking for the eraser here. So I'm just looking for the eraser here. Where's the eraser? Oh, right there. Okay. So maybe I should not try to say anything about that for the moment. And then we'll have to figure out what we need as we go along, instead of me telling you what you need. So, okay, so go ahead.
Let me go ahead, and I know I can already tell that you're not gonna accept it, but
Sure, but that's the way it always is. Go ahead.
Yeah, so here's my name for the tautological representation.
Yeah.
Rational representation of 3-bang. That's just how I'm thinking of it. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, whether you like it or not, I'm gonna make this thing into a special commutative Frobenius algebra.
Okay, that sounds good. Go ahead.
And hopefully,
sounds good.
Hopefully the fact that that is been made into such a thing will imply that its image under T also gets to be such a thing. Let's see, why should that be true? So T is a symmetric monoidal U linear functor. So that should map algebras of some prop to algebras of the same prop. So if we can describe special commutative Frobenius algebras as algebras of some prop, which is true, then having one over in this symmetric monoidal category will mean that its image over here gets to be one as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably doing something good here. You're probably, like you're saying, you're putting you're actually finding this important Frobenius algebra over in the representation category. It's like the generic 3L.
I guess that is the generic something that's like some generic torsor. Every other torsor for various factors through the identity.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So yeah, I think you can
actually good
generically in that sense. So okay, so let me just say a little bit of stuff. So let me write a bit of stuff. So Q3. So Q3. So I'm claiming it will be. I mean, we will make it into a special commutative Frobenius algebra.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I hope that's true. Yeah, and well, now I'm more worried. I know it's true in the category of vector spaces, but that's not what we want. We want it to be in the category of these 3-bang reps.
Yeah, but the question is, but that just means, is it an equivariant for Frobenius algebra?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it's true. I think it's a very natural structure that will be invariant under the permutations of the coordinates. So I guess there are different ways to describe how it gets to be that. But let me you're not going to like this, but you're going to like this even less. I can say it in a higher brow way, but
well, go ahead. Go
whichever you want. Super low brow way. So
yeah,
we're going to make this into an algebra.
Yeah.
Starters. And here's how.
Okay.
Formula. Give you a formula. So the way I multiply two triples of rational numbers.
Yeah.
Is just going to be the sort of obvious way, whatever. It's the point-wise, the component-wise multiplication. So that's my algebra structure.
Yeah.
That's clearly 3-bang equivariant.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so that's the multiplication.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to tell you the comultiplication.
Yeah.
And then similarly, sorry. Trying to undo that stupid thing. God, this is tough. So Yeah, I'm going to tell you the co-multiplication. Co-mult. So I'm going to co-multiply a triple.
Yeah.
Why
did you go from 1 to 3? What?
What? Oh, I don't know. Probably because I'm worrying about the next thing. For some reason, I want to describe it a different way. I don't like that. So instead,
Okay.
what I'm going to I'm going to describe co-multiplication in terms of these standard basis vectors. So that these basis vectors, right? Like E1 is the basis vector 1, 0, 0, and E2 is 0, 1, 0, and E3 is. So if I tell you how to co-multiply any one of those guys, because co-multiplication is linear, that means I'm done telling you what the co-multiplication is. And so that just is nicer to write it this way. So it's just EI tensor EI.
Okay.
So that's a sort of famous, that is the way to make a vector space with a basis into a co-algebra. That it's coming from the fact that any set
From the basis
is any set is a comonoid in the category of sets, and then the free vector space on that set gets to be a co-algebra in the category of vector spaces with its tensor product. And then this is sort of coming from the diagonal in the category of sets.
All right, I have a sort of really dumb question here.
Okay. Yep.
Well, right. It's so dumb that I should think about it first, but I won't even think about it first. I'll admit that it's really dumb. Which is, the question is, this seemed so straightforward that I was wondering if this might be some famous Hopf structure. But I wouldn't expect something to be both Hopf and Frobenius at the same time. Let's see. I mean, let's see. That looks like.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's Hopf. I don't think one way to think about this. There are different ways to think about this. Is like the free vector space on a set, or in this finite set case, you can all think of it as the functions on that finite set. And that thing doesn't become a Hopf algebra, I don't think.
Oh, let me think what you're saying. Okay, that might be very helpful. Let me think. So the point is that you didn't use anything on the basis yet. Okay, so all you used the basis so far. Okay. Well, okay. So in fact, even though it was a dumb question, it was also a usefully dumb question, because
dumb questions are often good questions.
It sort of suggests what is the big difference between a Frobenius structure and a Hopf structure. That this really only relied on the basis. The whole Frobenius algebra only relied on the basis.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So then there are different things like, so first of all, you see there's nothing special about 3 here.
Right.
And second of all, if you wanted to, we could talk about the Frobenius algebra laws and why this obeys them. And we could also talk about the special law and why this obeys.
But is there anything, okay, you did, but I'm glad you also said commutative. So, I mean, is that sort of all the salient stuff right there? Special, commutative, Frobenius?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But now I really do want to try to force you to remind us exactly what that prop looks like. in terms of, an explicit concrete description of each operation space.
Okay.
Um,
Let me think of
particularly, hope, I will be less interested in this question if I don't like the answer, but if the answer is nice, then,
Right. So last time I was like trying to remember, and I showed you a chart.
Right.
And
should we dig up that chart? Go ahead. Yeah.
no, luckily, I mean, I did refresh my memory, so I was really annoyed at myself for like how I'd forgotten these things that
yes,
for a certain year seemed like the most important and obvious facts in the world.
yes.
So, okay, but so there will be a nice answer to this question, and in the of the sort that you demand, that we describe the prop by its, not by generators and relations, which is what the string diagram people like, but in terms of the operation spaces.
Yes.
And the operations with arity, so that we're dealing with a prop. So the arity, can I pop to the next page?
Sure.
So we want like M input, N output arity operations.
Sorry. Just because you asked for permission I gave the permission too quickly to jump to the. I just want to make one comment about something that happened on the previous page, which I'm not sure if we really said it out loud, but it sort of seems useful. We came close to saying it out loud. So we were talking about how this method that you want to use will work nicely, especially if this algebra structure is equivariant. If it's n-bang equivariant, then that's sort of what you need in order for this.
Yeah, I
method.
hadn't thought about that until.
Yes. And furthermore, the fact that it is equivariant is almost synonymous with, and you already sort of, we did almost say these things. The fact that it is equivariant is sort of almost synonymous with the fact that it's what we were talking about is depending only on the basis.
Yep. Right.
Or something like that. Yeah. So, right. The fact that we got it exactly from this basis, which is secretly this n element set, or not so secretly this n element set. So yeah, I just wanted to say that out loud, that that equivariance is kind of synonymous with that basis dependence, or dependence on nothing more than the basis, or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a thing. Yeah, and that's fine. There's a thing that we could someday try to do, which is to show somehow that all the structure. So we've got a vector space with a chosen basis, and you could ask this type of puzzle, like what is all the structure on a vector space that you get from it having a basis, but more precisely, all the structure that you can express in the language of props. For example.
Yeah, I was going to say, you get all sorts of slightly different versions of that question if you specify a doctrine, and that's sort of what you're doing by saying the doctrine of props or something like that.
Right. So I believe that if you say the doctrine of props, then I think all that structure is the structure of being a special commutative Frobenius algebra. That's a theorem that I've never know if I've ever seen anyone prove that. It may be sort of really easy given other stuff that people have proved.
Yeah, I may be sort of tiptoeing around belaboring that theorem here or something like that. But yeah, but go ahead. Yes. Yeah. Something like that.
I mean, that theorem would explain why where this concept of special commutative Frobenius algebra came from here, which seems sort of trick or some clever thing, but there should be like a way to just, in theory, just like crank it out.
Yes.
Okay, but then you asked another question, which is, given that we have this prop for special commutative Frobenius algebras, what is this prop? And describe this prop in terms of the operations with input arity M and output arity n. So the mn operations in the prop. Sorry, I'm being sort of slow here on purpose, but on prop for commutative special Frobenius algebras.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what he wanted me to tell you.
Yes.
And I believe what they are is, well, first I'll say it not quite right, but then I'll try to say it right. So what they basically are is cospans of finite sets. So there's like some other finite set up here. But what they really are is actually, what they really are is something like isomorphism classes of cospan.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an answer to my question, right?
That's what?
An answer to my question.
Right.
And okay, so can you flip back to the previous page for a second?
Yeah.
Oh, you're still writing.
Yeah. It's incredible how
I may have assumed that you were finished talking as well, finished writing and finished talking. And I'm not
well.
sure.
I would do want to. Well, now that he gave me a
Yes.
let me get my foot in the door. So this being some answer to the question, what's the prop?
Yes.
Definitely. Maybe you were about to say this. It definitely is interesting in relation to this claim I made that this prop that we're talking about is somehow the prop that expresses all the structure that you can put on a vector space from having a basis. So so we have these two sort of conceptual ways of thinking about this prop, one in terms of all the structure that comes from having a basis, and the other cospans. And I have no idea why those two, I have no idea why those two are the same thing. So
well, but it's plausible. I mean, it should be interesting to find out. But go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you seem to be anyway. Yeah. So I mean, there should be some reason why those are the same thing.
Yes, but that might not be where I'm most directly heading. So okay. So I can ask a next question here, right?
Okay.
So we have fixed n equals 3 here. And my next question is, is this giving us, is by fixing n equals 3 in this way, are we giving a faithful representation of this prop? Or is it at all unfaithful? And if so, how unfaithful is it? So, okay, now maybe we flip back to page 2.
I assume it's somehow not faithful because there's something about dimension 3 that's popping in here that isn't inherent in just the prop for special commutative Frobenius algebras.
So what are we getting here? So yeah, so what is going on here? So
I mean, it sounds sort of reminiscent of things like the difference between the category of vector spaces and the category of vector spaces of dimension n.
Right. Well, okay. But so is there, I mean, okay. Wait a minute. So first of all, so this is actually a fairly infinite set of operations here. Is that right?
Sure.
But on the other hand, the infiniteness of it seems in a way a little bit cheating or something like that. That
Well, it's a finitely presented prop, if that helps.
it's a well, no, but what? Okay, but what I had in mind was that. Well, that's interesting. That's a finitely presented prop, but that. I mean, right? It's like the way that this gets to be so infinite is because you could just pad it with more useless elements of K that don't really participate in any way. Aren't in the image from M or N.
That's true. I hadn't quite been thinking about that, but yeah, that is definitely.
All right, maybe we should. Okay, I have raised a question here, which is, is there a coarsening of the prop that we're getting from, focusing on n equals 3? But maybe we could or should approach my question by thinking about your question, which was what is, how do we translate between those two pictures of what
Yeah, I know the answer to your question. I don't know the answer to my question. I'll say the answer to your question.
Okay, yeah, okay, go ahead. Okay, because I'm interested in both. Yeah, go ahead.
So
I didn't realize you did know the answer to my question. Go ahead, yeah.
I think I do. I mean, I have a good guess. So
yeah.
So this prop, right? So it has. Let me draw a few cospans.
Yeah.
So one cospan of finite sets looks like this. So here what I'm doing is I have M is a 2-element set, N is a 1-element set, and they're both getting mapped to this 1-element set.
Yes.
So there's that, and that's called the multiplication.
Yes.
If we read from left to right.
Yes.
And then there's a co-multiplication. I'm trying to quickly get to the answer to your question.
Okay.
There's a co-multiplication.
For me, the big suspenseful question is there any collapsing at all? But okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, if I don't keep you in suspense, you're gonna not listen to what I'm saying. So, well, let's see. I'm not writing them in the best order. There's this co-unit.
Yeah.
That's this one here. And there's this unit. I don't know why I wrote them in this stupid order. So these generate the prop.
Right. And when I say right, not only that, you may have hinted that already, but it just seems really sensible. So, but go ahead.
Okay. Then from them you can get this couple of other really important things. There's this kind of thing. So you can get this guy by composing the multiplication and the co-unit.
Yeah.
And then there's the mirror image of that thing.
Yeah.
And I guess people would call this thing reading down rather than left to right. They call this like a cup and a cap.
Right.
Okay, and then there's a relation that we get. It's not in the relation. It's not a relation that we get. I haven't even written down the relations that happen because we have a commutative special Frobenius algebra. I'm not going to write those down now unless you demand it. But your question was like, what collapse occurs if we focus on what collapse occurs if we focus on this particular
Yes.
Frobenius algebra.
Yes.
And the relation that we get is that this cap followed by this cup, which is a, sorry, I didn't draw it right. All right. So if I do the cap followed by the cup, I get an endomorphism of the and endomorphism. I get a thing that looks like this.
Yes.
And so that is a scalar. That's an endomorphism of the unit object for the tensor product. And so that is equal to 3.
Yes.
Because our vector space here has dimension 3, and these are the unit and co-unit of an adjunction. So when you compose them, you get the dimension of the object. So I think that's just it. I suspect, I mean, that's true, but I think that may be like all.
Oh boy, I'm really not getting this yet, but I mean that's interesting. But let me think about this. Let's see. So what are you saying here? So what are you saying? Well, so I mean, but there's various ways. First of all, I have to understand more about in what form are you giving your answer. So in other words, are you saying that? First of all, okay, so let's see. Equals, okay, well, okay, let me think for a second. Equals 3. So you mean like the number 3?
Basically, or 3 times the identity morphism from the, I hope this is right. Let's see. This prop, I guess I have to be clear. This prop, you could think of it as just like a set-based prop, and then 3 wouldn't make any sense. But here I'm thinking of it as a vector-based prop, because we're looking at algebras of this prop in things like rational vector spaces.
Okay. Okay, so wait a minute. Okay, so okay, we do have a set-based prop, but we can just extend it to being a vector valued prop. And when we extend it to the vector valued prop, then we could extend it to a vector valued prop.
I think it's legit to extend it to a vector valued prop because the question you asked.
Go ahead, yeah. Because what?
The question you asked me that I'm trying to answer involves this special properties of representations over 3-bang over rational vector spaces. So I think there's like a sense in which maybe I can't answer that question unless I bring in the rational vector spaces and work with a vector valued prop. I think that's my guess.
All right. But let's see. Okay, I'm still a bit disoriented here. Let me think. I mean, the question is, changing into several different questions here. Let's see. So, okay, can I see the next page again? The page 2.
Yeah.
So let me think about what you're saying. Well, so right. We have this interesting issue here of set valued props versus vector valued props and so forth. But trying to not to worry about that too much for a second, we also have the issue of if you're going to describe some quotient prop of a prop, and again, this could be either in the set valued case or in the vector valued case, but if you're going to describe some quotient prop of a prop, then one way to do it would be to just, give generating equations. And you say, I just need these generating equations and that's enough. Mm-hmm. But another way to do it is to give a concrete description of the operation spaces. Mm-hmm. And a concrete description of the operation spaces, you could ask for that again, either in the set valued picture or in the vector valued picture. And the questions might make more or less sense depending on which picture you're looking at. Mm-hmm. Like it almost sounds like you might be hinting that for the 3-element set, well, so right. So one of my questions is, are you saying that there is at the set valued prop level, there is no quotient? Is that really true? But then also another question is, if we're looking at a vector valued prop, are you telling me that the operation spaces are now some sort of yeah, what are they? Let's see. So, might they be some sort of finite dimensional vector spaces now? I don't know. Let's see.
They could be. Yeah, they could. Once you've quotiented out, yeah, they could be. This is. It could be.
Let me think about the other question you raised. Okay, let me think about the other question you raised. So the other question you raised was, if I remember it correctly, that we have this cospan picture of the operations in the operad, or in the prop, the operations in the prop, or of the operation spaces of the prop. We have the answer, the description of that given by the cospans. But we also have this other philosophy that you stated, and let's see, maybe I should just ask you to restate it, or I should try to restate it myself. So it was something like that if you have a vector space with a basis, you have a basis for a vector space. Mm-hmm. Then there's this collection of all tensors you can write. This isn't right. You didn't say it this way, but shouldn't I be able to say it somehow this way? That it's like all the tensors that you can write in a certain kind of notation. So how does this work? Let's see.
Use those basis vectors.
Yeah, what am I trying to say?
You could probably write them in 10 rows type index notation, where you get to use. Well, you don't need to think about it in that. You could think of it as like you could use 3 different maps from the ground field to V, which are ways of talking about the 3 basis vectors. And then from those maps,
what if I'm staring at a cospan, and what if I just try to? So, okay, first of all, do I understand what a cospan looks like in general? Right. Do you have a sense of how complicated cospans can look like?
They are not all that complicated. There's the stuff that gets in the apex that gets hit by something in the one of the feet, and there's the stuff that's not. And you were sort of pointing out that like you could have as much junk that's not getting hit as you want, and that sort of
Let me think. Can I think about it? Let me think about it. Let me see. What am I trying to say? Cospan. So you have set. Well, let's see. I mean, how much more elaborate are cospans compared to correlations? And how can how well can we visualize correlations?
So you can always, so that stuff about, you can always take a cospan and take its apex, write it as disjoint union of the points that are hit by something in the something in the foot and the ones that aren't. And if you remove the ones that aren't, then you get a correlation. So there's like a decomposition of a cospan into a certain kind of sum of a correlation and a cospan with trivial feet, with empty
Right, and this
feet.
does have something to do with the. I was going to say the. Well, in one context, back in the sort of, is it non-commutative or something? Maybe not, but in a certain context, this has to do with the genus killer. But what do we call those? What do we call in this context? What do we call that? It's like not the genus killer. It's like the
connected component killer, the disconnected chunk killer.
Well, all right, let's see. So, first of all, let me just try to, organize things about when we're going to quit and stuff here like that. So, we started a little bit late. Should we, it's already theoretically quitting time, but we started a little bit late. Should we try to quit now, or should we try to, go on a little bit? Because I have the feeling that, if we keep on going for a slightly later quitting time, we'll probably be doing more of the same groping around right now. It's not like I'm expecting to reach a definite answer at the moment. So if you wanted to quit now, that wouldn't be so bad. But I also wouldn't mind just spending a little more time groping around. It's just whichever is more convenient. Should we? What time do you think we should aim for quitting? 15 minutes from now or 5 minutes from now?
Oh, maybe, I don't know. It doesn't
matter too much.
It depends a lot on like how exciting the groping around is gonna
Well,
be. I don't have
I'm not expecting anything very exciting. I feel like I'm at the point here. I'm almost at the point where I feel like I need to go home and think about this. There's a bunch of good...
that, like, we actually did. I just want to point out to ourselves that we sort of did do something exciting, although I sort of sounded like it and knew it all along or something, but I definitely didn't. So that what we figured out is how to we know this, but I want to say it anyway.
Yes.
Shown how from any torsor of the sort that you're interested in, we get a special commutative Frobenius algebra in the category of A modules, which I hadn't cottoned on to that until today. So that's, I think, pretty nice.
So this is this thing that happened when we were turning the page, this thing that says that because we have this, if I understand what you're saying, that we have this, that the what am I trying to say? That the n-dimensional, the tautological representation of n-bang is an equivariant special commutative Frobenius algebra. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And that because it is, that gives us this. What am I trying to say? So maybe I should ask you to repeat what you were saying.
Yeah. So I mean, you said it in a nice way before when you thought of a special case of this map T that you drew on the top of the page here would be to take T to be the identity. So I'm going to call that like the,
yes, that's right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yes.
The universal three-bang torsor or something like that. I don't know, the walking three-bang torsor. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, the walking. Yeah. The walking three-bang torsor. Yeah, the walking n-bang torsor. Yes.
Yeah. So the walking n-bang torsor is a special commutative Frobenius algebra in the category of representations of n-bang.
Right, and that is synonymous. Am I saying this right? So that because the walking one is, that's just another way of rephrasing the idea that anyone is. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, that's right. Or that's a way to prove that anyone is, if you want to do it that way. But
right.
And so that's really cool that I think we discovered. And then the other point that you were starting to raise is that it's not the walking special commutative Frobenius algebra. Well, first of all, it can't be because it has to be n-bang equivariant. But also somehow, well, maybe that's all.
Yeah, but it would, if we integrated over all n, it wouldn't surprise me if we did get the.
That's what I was hoping that. Yeah. So right. So I was
hoping in some vague sense of integrating over n.
Right. Yeah. So that would be the really nice thing to understand, is to think of the walking special commutative Frobenius algebra, and then some kind of quotients of it where you add extra relations that give you. I was sort of hinting that like there'd be something like the walking special commutative Frobenius algebra of dimension n as a important concept, which is, I think, maybe what we've got here,
or something like that. Yeah. Well, yes, but one of the things you're hinting at there, again, this does actually go back to the start of today's discussion, that, right? I mean, part of integrating over all in is just this vaguish idea of integrating over all the n lower than a given n prime.
Right. So you say, so instead of what I said, to say of subdimension n, maybe.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
So like, Todd and Joe and I have been thinking a lot about representation theory of symmetric groups. And well, I think we just got this idea from you probably ultimately, but thinking about like the walking object of subdimension n in this doctrine is a really useful thing.
Yes. But well, I mean, there are two ideas. I'm not quite sure which one we're talking about, but maybe that's because we're sort of trying to talk about both of them now. I mean, right? You can. It's interesting to talk about this subdimension n for like a sort of linear flavored object, but now we're discovering that it's also interesting to talk more like sort of sub cardinality n or something like that. For these things that are more set-like or something like that. But it also seems like with this vague idea of, right when we were talking about, one of the things that bothered me about our my temporary terminology talking about an object of subdimension n is that, right, it almost seemed like that was the wrong intuition. Maybe we should say it's of quotient dimension n or something like that, because it's right, it's these, the general subline bundle is really a quotient probably of a line bundle, maybe, or something like that. But when we're working with these set-like objects, it seems like, because the duality is different compared to for linear objects, you could, what am I trying to say? That you can talk about, am I saying this right? That sets, now I'm confused. Let's see. You have,
are you thinking about subsets versus quotient sets now?
I thought I was, but now I see what am I trying to say? Oh, okay. I guess what I was trying to say that is this. So we've been talking about things like, right, in certain contexts, and some people might not like this, but in certain contexts, you can talk about torsors of a monoid instead of a group. That happens when you're dealing with geometric theories and things like that. And interesting, weird things happen when you do that. But one of the interesting, weird things that happens is that, for a group, right, we're very familiar with the idea that for groups, the opposite group is really just the same group. Whereas for monoids, the opposite monoid can be very different. So if you talk about, a torsor of a monoid, that could be very different in a lot of ways from a torsor of the opposite monoid. I think it could be. And so I'm saying that that's, like, maybe I'm hinting that there's some sort of co-Frobenius algebra concept or something like that here.
So what's the monoid you're talking about? The endomorphisms of a set?
The endomorphisms of a set, yes. N to the power of n is the endomorphisms of a set.
Right.
But that, if I'm remembering correctly, that monoid is very different from its opposite monoid. And so that makes me wonder if the torsors are very different. And that would be like, we're talking about sets over a commutative ring, but then there could be more like sort of Boolean algebras over a commutative ring, which would be sort of like the opposite thing, very roughly, or something like that. But anyway, sorry, I am digressing here. What am I trying to say here? That well, I guess it's just right. Okay, trying back to undergress. We were starting to hint about this vague idea of integrating over all n here, and how that relates to like the walking thing of cardinality n, or maybe the walking thing of subcardinality n, or maybe the walking thing of quotient cardinality or n, or something like that. But then we were thinking about trying to integrate over all n to see that maybe this is giving us something like general special commutative Frobenius algebras or something like that. And then somehow that was provoking me to groping towards what happens when you play around with see, I mean, we're trying to study things that are like, locally trivial bundles. So we don't really want those things with like spiky skyscraper type fibers or something like that. But we may sort of be forced to think about those. We may be forced to think about the spiky skyscraper version of these sets, what would those be? Again, I'm vaguely rambling on here, but
That
let's
makes me think of branched coverings as opposed to true
coverings. Yeah, but there are different flavors of branch covering. That's a very interesting idea. That's a very interesting idea. But it's not what I was expecting. I'll really have to think about that. Right, that could be something here. What would that be? So let's see. Okay, I'm doing a bad job here of trying to bring us to any sort of conclusion here. Let's see. So yeah, did I interrupt us from anything we were trying to sum up here?
No, I think we said it and then we started marching ahead. I think I want to quit now. I think we
Oh, okay, but can I just force you to do one thing before we quit?
Okay.
I want you to go to a blank page here and draw for me sort of like, in a completely informal sense, what the typical cospan looks like. You know what I mean? Like, right, you always make fun of me for making up these little finite generic and not sufficiently generic examples where, always makes, oh, there's at least one of these and at least one of these.
Okay, I'll try to do it.
This is right. This is a good start. Right. Yeah, certainly 4 points on one side and 5 points on the other.
Okay.
So you're not tempted to give this thing any more than 3 columns. 3 columns seems enough. That the thing in the middle and the thing on the left.
Right. That's all there is to it.
Okay.
So there can be guys in the apex that aren't hit at all.
Okay.
You can certainly have multiple things that hit the same thing. You can have multiple things coming in from the other end that hit the same thing.
So it sounds like you're saying that the general thing is, what am I trying to say? That it's like a, right. I think sort of my ink works here. Let me, if I can just find the ink here, red ink. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, this is very helpful, but right. Maybe I should just let you sort of finish it.
Let's see.
I mean, right. And you at any point, if you get tired, you can just say, I'm done or something like that, because it will already be a cospan.
Yeah. I'm getting sick of this, but
yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, but now I want to
these are pretty much the main things that I will get rid of one of these guys.
Okay. What weird? Why didn't I? Maybe I have to click on the. Oh, I have to click on the draw thing, I guess. Okay, and then I get the red ink. Okay, is that going to work? No, it's still giving me an eraser. What am I doing wrong here? I clicked on draw and then click on draw there. Okay, and then click on the red. Is that working? Okay, sorry, I was screwing up here trying to. All right, so now that you've drawn something there, I just want to sort of, circle the little things here. So it looks like there's a thing there. And there's a thing there. There's a thing there. Thing there. Thing there. And there's one here. And so it sounds like you're telling me that every span is just a sum of these spans that just have a single apex point.
Yeah, where the number 2, there are a lot of 2-to-1 maps here. So 2 should be sort of thought of as a stand-in for any natural number. So.
Right. So the point is that these atomic ones that I've circling in red, those are just pairs of natural numbers, basically. So this is like a family of pairs of natural numbers.
That's true.
So the pairs of natural numbers, I mean, I'm being silly. That's kind of like, you know, this grid of the natural numbers squared. And so, right. So I could, if I wanted to, you know, say that the cospan looks like, you know, I put in 3 of these and 7 of these and or in 2 of those or something like that. And that gives me a cospan, and they all sort of look like this. I'm just trying to get various kinds of intuition for seeing what a cospan is like. But I you know, I didn't quite have this intuition. But yeah, now it seems okay. So that's all I wanted to get from you. I wanted to get you just, you know, a certain kind of intuition for how to think of these cospans. Let's see, and the correlations are the ones where, don't tell me, where you don't have any here or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Or so it should be, yeah, it should be 0 in there.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That's very helpful. I'll go home and think about this. Yeah, I don't know if I made all my questions really clear. I mean, one way I may fail to make them clear was by not saying my questions. But I'm hoping anybody who's listening, or at least you who is listening, if you are listening, can get some sense of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, no, I think this is really, really cool.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, we're definitely
You've been sort of
blindly groping around here, but it really seems like helpful to me to understand this stuff. So what were we going to say? What did you say? What did I miss?
We've sort of been downplaying the number theoretic.
Oh, but that's your fault for not letting me finish writing the computer program. I actually make good errors that I want to tell you about that.
But the point is that we already know that they exist. So the fact that they exist is part of what makes this stuff so cool, even though this stuff would be like cool if we didn't have any idea that it had anything to do with number theory.
Yes.
So that's fun, or algebraic geometry, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Okay, I want to call it quits.
Okay. Thanks for sticking around a little bit. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Yep, it's fun. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Now I really say goodbye.